position, a defensive projectile launched, climbing furiously towards the sky. The projectile screamed past, detonating harmlessly in the empty sky, but its message was delivered. And sometimes, the most significant events don't happen with a bang, but with a single, symbolic whisper. A new plan was born, audacious and unconventional, relying not on power, but on stealth and surprise. The low-flying device slipped past the outer perimeter, completely undetected. In the twilight of modern conflict, legends are forged from steel and code. A new shape was rolled from the shadows, a promise of air superiority. This was the Su-57 Felon, more myth than machine in the eyes of the world. For the pilot, designated Ghost, this was more than a machine. It was an extension of his will. Encased in his digital cockpit, the world outside becomes a stream of data to be conquered. With a roar that shook the very ground, the Phantom took to the sky. Its first missions were not about engagement, but about presence. A psychological game played at 40,000 feet. From the safety of his domain, Ghost began his hunt, scanning the Earth below. The strategy was clear. Operate from the fringes, a long-range threat that could not be touched. A target of opportunity appears on his display, a nerve center on the ground. From the belly of the beast, a smart payload is released. It travels with incredible speed, a silver streak across the sky on a mission of its own. On the ground in a quiet sector, the day felt routine, dangerously so. Then, a sudden, unfamiliar sound from above, a brief moment of confusion. From a distance, the consequence is seen. A plume of smoke, a silent testament to the engagement. Back at command, the action is logged as a success. Confidence grows with every successful sortie. The pilot's return is routine, another mission flawlessly executed. The machine had proven its worth. But miles away, in quiet, darkened rooms, every action was being recorded. Analysts, known only as the Net, began connecting the dots, seeing a pattern in the chaos. They noticed the Phantom's caution, its unwillingness to cross a certain line. It was powerful, but timid. The question wasn't how to face the machine, but how to exploit the mindset of the man flying it. The plan began to form, not to build a better wall, but to set a smarter trap. Under the cover of darkness, defensive assets were repositioned silently and methodically. Old and new systems were being linked, taught to speak a single unified language. The scattered eyes and ears on the ground were awakening as one cohesive digital entity. The next day, the Phantom took to the sky again, expecting another uncontested run. For the pilot, this was becoming a familiar rhythm, a demonstration of untouchable power. On the screens of the Net, the familiar signature appeared right on schedule. The command was given: operate in silence, watch, listen, but do not reveal your presence. The invisible web was now active, a digital minefield waiting for a single misstep. Ghost scanned the horizon, but his screens showed nothing. The landscape was eerily quiet. Back at his command, the lack of targets was interpreted as fear from the other side. A new order was given, born from overconfidence: Push a little closer. Test their resolve. A deep breath, a slight push on the controls. The pilot nudged his craft across the line. It was a small deviation, a minor incursion, but it was the only invitation the net needed. In the command center, the target marker turned from yellow to red. It was inside. The order was whispered with cold precision. Illuminate. Instantly, a dozen different defensive systems, dormant for days, all woke up at once. Ghost's cockpit erupted in a symphony of alarms. He wasn't just detected, he was painted from every conceivable angle. The pilot's world shrank to the flashing warnings on his screen. The hunter had become the hunted. In a surge of adrenaline, he pulled the stick hard, throwing the multi-million-dollar jet into a desperate defensive maneuver. A cascade of countermeasures bloomed behind the aircraft, a frantic attempt to blind the systems below. From a hidden position, a defensive projectile launched, climbing furiously towards the sky. On his display, Ghost saw the inbound threat, a rapidly approaching line of light. He pushed the machine to its absolute limits, a violent ballet of high G turns. The projectile screamed past, detonating harmlessly in the empty sky, but its message was delivered. Shaken, the pilot retreated back to safe airspace, his heart pounding against his ribs. A new directive was issued to all squadrons. All deep engagements were now forbidden. The pilot who had left as a confident hunter returned as a man who had stared into the abyss. The net had won the engagement without ever making contact. They had weaponized the pilot's own fear. The Phantom was now leashed, its role reduced to a distant threat, its primary advantage neutralized. But the net's analysis continued, shifting from the sky to the ground. They realized the Phantom's greatest vulnerability was not in the air, but in its own perceived safety. A new plan was born, audacious and unconventional, relying not on power, but on stealth and surprise. Coordinates were locked into a new kind of weapon, small, quiet, and unassuming. From a hidden launch site, a new kind of pilgrim began its journey. It flew not with a roar, but with a hum, a whisper on the wind. Its mission, a one-way trip deep into hostile territory. It crossed rivers and fields under the cloak of night, a testament to endurance. It flew beneath notice, beneath contempt, too small to register as a credible threat. It was a ghost of a different kind, passing unseen over a sleeping landscape. Back at command, the net watched the single dot crawl across their map, holding their collective breath. As dawn approached, the target airfield came into view. The low-flying device slipped past the outer perimeter, completely undetected. In the base's control room, the night shift was ending. Complacency was the real enemy. A lone sentry on patrol felt a pre-dawn chill, unaware of the visitor in his skies. The base's sophisticated defenses were all pointed outward, blind to the danger already inside. The device's onboard camera locked onto its target, the icon of air power sitting exposed on the tarmac. It made its final, silent approach, a small David approaching a sleeping Goliath. The moment of contact was not a massive fireball, but a precise, focused release of energy. From a distance, it was nothing more than a spark, a flash of light on the horizon. Then, the delayed sound of the alarms, a sudden, panicked awakening. Figures scrambled across the airfield in the half-light, running towards the source of the commotion. The initial reports were confused, chaotic. No one understood what had just happened. A close-up view revealed the damage. A series of punctures, a symbolic wound on the aircraft's pristine skin. A thin wisp of smoke curled from the affected area, a sign of a critical hit. Officers arrived on the scene, their faces a mixture of disbelief and fury. In the net's control room, the dot on the screen simply vanished. The mission was complete. A quiet nod of acknowledgement passed between the officers. The message had been sent. The wounded Phantom was quickly hidden from view, a secret to be concealed. The confrontation highlighted a stark reality of the new age of conflict. It proved that the most expensive tool is not always the most effective one. Sometimes the most powerful move on the board is the one your opponent never sees coming. The image of the untouchable predator had been shattered. The story of the Su-57 began with the promise of technological dominance. Its initial actions were built on a strategy of remote, risk-free power projection. But this predictability allowed an intelligent, integrated network to turn the tables. By illuminating the jet from all sides, the net attacked the pilot's mind, not the machine. The Phantom's narrow escape was not a victory, but the beginning of its irrelevance. This paved the way for a highly unconventional countermove, a single precise action. It became a contest of philosophies, brute force versus asymmetric thinking. The resulting damage was minimal in scope, but monumental in significance. It was a checkmate achieved not through overwhelming power, but through superior strategy. This engagement redefined the meaning of vulnerability in modern warfare. And it taught the world a timeless lesson. You don't always have to fight a giant to bring it to its knees.